TWWT Wrestling Talk here with the coverage of the 1000th episode of Monday Night Raw here on July 23rd, 2012. We knew coming into this episode of Raw, we got a heads up on some of the the people that, slash segments that Raw had planned for this show. We knew coming into this night that WWE, they were going to pretty much throw everything but the kitchen sink into this episode of Raw, and I think they did that, and they probably had more in there than I thought that they were going to have, as far as legends and different segments and different legends that were involved, factions, etc. Without further ado, let's try to go through the show here, kind of piece by piece. First of all, we knew that this episode was going to open with DX, Triple H and Shawn Michaels. It was a pretty good opening segment. I mean, you knew this segment was going to be a pretty, kind of just like a fun and games kind of segment. It was a reunion. As simple as that. It wasn't, it was a full DX reunion, I should say. Not just Triple H and Shawn Michaels. This time members of the old DX as well. That made it a little more interesting, a little unexpected. But to me, what made the segment even better is that how Damien Sandow came out. And the reason I say that this makes it better is because it attracted more heat to Damien Sandow, which is good. I mean, he's very young in his career, and the way he can garner heat with his gimmick, with his super maturity gimmick, however you want to put it. His kind of nerdy, kind of religious gimmick in a sense. The way he can attract heat, is good, especially against DX. If they do build Sandow up more, they do have a chance to build him up pretty well, with the kind of heat he can get, and they put him into this DX segment, and he can't. It was a pretty good move. You knew he wasn't going to get an edge or anything. 5 guys in the ring. The fans were calling for sweet chin music. I knew before that hand, once DX was huddling up, you knew Shawn Michaels. I knew Shawn Michaels was gonna nail sweet chin music at some point. And certainly the Triple H kind of distracted him a little bit, and that's where HBK nailed sweet chin music on him, and Triple H put him into a pedigree before Sandow would fall over, I guess you could say. And that put him into a somewhat humorous opening DX segment to this 7th episode of Raw. Pretty decent stuff there. Then the show kind of, they had a 6-man tag match, a little short-lived, I think, but they were, I guess they were scrambling for time a little bit in this episode of Raw, considering how bulky it was, how dense it was. But they had a 6-man tag match. Basically, to put it short, Sheamus gets the victory over Jericho in this 6-man tag match with Rey Mysterio and Sin Cara by his side. It wasn't for Rey Mysterio's first match back. It wasn't wasn't a great match by any means, really. You know, but I guess maybe they felt rushed. But basically, Dolph Ziggler kind of, well, he was teammates with Chris Jericho. I guess, you know, they decided to keep Jericho in the heel team for this match, even though he's with Ziggler right now, kind of being the one talking. He talked down to him last week and gave him the cheap shot. Basically screwed them up, you know, screwed Jericho up, getting into a broad kick and losing the match. Then, you know, Jericho's like more of the face, you know, when it comes to them two. You know, it seems like this rivalry is gonna, you know, go somewhere in the coming weeks, and probably to a match at SummerSlam, which is pretty good. It's a good feud to elevate Dolph. You know, whether he's, you know, whether face or heel, you know, whether Jericho's face, you know, however much of a face you want to consider him in this feud. Either way, it's good for Dolph Ziggler, and, you know, it keeps Jericho busy. So, you know, looking forward to seeing how, you know, where else this feud, you know, goes in the coming weeks. After that, we just had, you know, what I like to call more crap from Brodus Clay. When I saw when Swagger was standing out there in the, you know, next to the, you know, ringside, I thought, oh well, this is good. Ryback's gonna come out and they're gonna have the match that they were supposed to have last week that never really got on. And then Brodus Clay hits, and I'm thinking, well, here we go again. You know, I had a, you know, an outside hope that maybe Ryback was going to come out for that match, you know, like maybe interfere or something, maybe do something different with him to, you know, maybe beat up Swagger more. Maybe they're, you know, I was thinking maybe they're going to start a feud there, but as it turns out, Ryback wasn't on the show at all tonight, and that, to me, that's probably my biggest criticism of this episode of Raw, is that, you know, Brodus Clay's becoming a channel changer. I mean, he's been a channel changer to me for months now. However, you know, from what I heard, there's a figure of 800,000 people changed the channel or whatever when Brodus Clay was wrestling last week or whatever. And can you really blame us? I mean, you know, he has these 20-second squash matches. You know, he dances out to the ring, 20-second squash match, dances in the ring with random kids, people, whatever, leaves the ring. It's crap. It's not entertaining at all, at least to the fan, you know, fan like me, who enjoys, you know, solid content, good storytelling. And I'm sorry, but that's Brodus Clay. His gimmick is pretty much a waste of space. Unless he's being fed to Big Show and gets the crap knocked out of him like he did, you know, a little while back. Brodus Clay is pretty much pointless to me as far as his part on Raw goes. So that's the feeling I get from it. Would have much rather see Ryback do something, you know, maybe have a, you know, more a little more dense match with Jack Swagger than the matches those two have had lately. But, you know, we'll see. I hope, you know, I guess we'll just see where that goes in the future. And, you know, kind of getting a little back more on track then, we had the Daniel Bryan and AJ wedding, which, you know, you knew something was going to go wrong, or, you know, just, you knew that they weren't going to go through with it for some odd reason. You know, of course, Slick was the, this acting pastor there, minister. You know, it was a little odd set. I mean, it was pretty, it seemed like they blew through it a little quickly. basically, you know, AJ rejects Daniel Bryan. Basically, this segment was used to announce that, you know, AJ is going to be the new Raw general manager. You know, Vince McMahon, you know, making a second appearance out to the ring to announce that. Well, first, you know, tricking us by, you know, acting as if someone was going to come out from the curtain, but then he points, you know, AJ, shows how AJ's the you know, general manager, which is, you know, a solid move, I think. I mean, her popularity has been up there, with the Daniel Bryan and CM Punk feud. You know, basically that's effectively over, which, you know, came as a bit of a surprise. But anyhow, you know, with that feud being over, I guess, you know, keep AJ being well used with her popularity, so it doesn't just sputter. Putting her as GM is interesting, and, you know, I think it's a good move for now. And down the road, I'd like, you know, I hear like SummerSlam, or maybe after SummerSlam, John Laurinaitis is going to be back in some shape or form. I'm looking for People Power to make its return. You know, some people don't know, some people know, but I like John Laurinaitis. Even though he screws up on the mic, it just kind of adds to his humor, and you know, it kind of adds to the heat that he gets in a way. It intensifies it, I guess you could say. You know, I'll save something like a discussion like that for maybe when he does come back. But for now, AJ, I think, makes a good, you know, interim of sorts, because I don't see her being a general manager for years to come. You know, maybe not. You know, maybe only a few months, and then we'll see. But for now, you know, that was a good move. Made the wedding seem a little kind of pointless, but, you know, we'll see what kind of things can combust between, you know, Daniel Bryan and AJ in the near future now that she's general manager. So basically, from there, we had you know, we had CM Punk come out. After that, kind of talk to Daniel Bryan a little bit, and The Rock, of course, came out, which was it was a bit of a surprise that he came out. When CM Punk came out, I wasn't sure if they were having that main event match, but, you know, then Daniel Bryan was still in the ring, and figured that he's gonna do a promo. So yeah, but the Rock ended up coming out then for that, which is great. Came out wearing a new shirt, looks pretty cool. Have to buy that shirt, but anyways, you know, the Rock made it clear that at the Royal Rumble he's going to get his WWE Championship match, which is, you know, interesting. Good. It's a different time than maybe some people predicted. You know, I heard a lot of people saying he was going to maybe be in the Royal Rumble match and win that, but that would kind of make it a little predictable, I think. So I think maybe it was a good idea steering clear of having him in the Royal Rumble match, and having him face, you know, whoever's the champion at the Royal Rumble. That's a good idea, because if, you know, The Rock were to lose or something, you know, that sets up a rematch maybe at WrestleMania, or, you know, or if The Rock wins at Royal Rumble, maybe he'll lose the title at WrestleMania. You know, we'll see. There's options there, but that's several you know, that's like half a year down the road at this point, so, you know, you just gotta worry about what we have to work with now with this whole thing. You know, Rock, in that segment, you know, The Rock got some, funny, you know, he got a few funny lines in, you know, Daniel Bryan, good stuff from The Rock as usual. You know, he also wished CM Punk luck in the match later against John Cena. CM Punk, you know, kind of made it, you know, he said that I'm going to be WWE champion at Royal Rumble, and I'm going to beat, you know, I'll beat you there, you know, The Rock at the Royal Rumble. So, you know, maybe get a little heat towards CM Punk. But, you know, The Rock wished him, he was a good sport for the most part. He wished CM Punk luck at the end of the promo. And also later on, backstage, The Rock also wished John Cena the same luck. You know, that's a whole other segment, short segment that is. But other than that, I mean, from there, we basically went to, you know, the next, you know, Triple H coming out, and, you know, as I predicted, as probably most people predicted, you know, Triple H had his fun and games earlier, and, you know, with the whole DX and whatnot, we figured he was gonna get serious later on the show, and this was that segment. I figured there was an outside chance that, you know, Lesnar would somehow get himself involved sooner, like with the DX, but I wasn't surprised that was saved. You know, Lesnar's involvement in the show was saved for later, and it's pretty much exclusively for this, you know, this segment with Triple H. And Triple H gets serious again. You know, kind of gets back on track with this Lesnar feud. Of course, Lesnar's music hits. Heyman comes out alone first. Does some promo in there with Triple H. Gets a little personal again. You know, Heyman brings up his family. Heyman, you know, doing a great job as always on the mic. And, you know, Stephanie McMahon comes out as well, and from here, I mean, you know, she kind of rehashes some things Triple H said, you know, kind of says how the lawsuit thing, you know, lawsuits are bogus, but I'm hoping that, you know, if Paul Heyman's gonna be in this, you know, significant part of this feud, which he sort of has been, to kind of fill the gaps for Lesnar's, you know, his contracted appearances. I think with the lawsuits, it would help, you know, bulk up the intensity of this feud. You know, of course, Triple H likes to say it's just between me and Brock, but with the lawsuit thing, that would strengthen the importance of the feud. If, you know, there was some kind of stakes placed on, you know, that Lesnar, you know, if these lawsuits come to fruition, if like Lesnar beats Triple H at SummerSlam and whatnot, and I've mentioned this before too. I mean, you know, if they told us more about the lawsuits, I mean, it's kind of the whole, you know, Lesnar quitting and suing WWE. It seems like it's just become, you know, an excuse to, you know, have a gap for Lesnar to not use up, you know, burn up a bunch of appearances. You know, I'd like it to be a bigger part of the feud, but I'm not sure yet. Maybe in the coming weeks, Lesnar will appear a little more frequently leading up to the build to SummerSlam. Guess we'll see on that, but you know, I know like Triple H and, you know, Lesnar, just the two of them fighting is great, you know, having a match together, but that you know, the whole lawsuit thing with Paul Heyman and Lesnar, you know, being some obligations to be fulfilled. I think having that in the mix with the feud would make it more important, and, you know, hoping maybe they'll kind of follow up with that in the coming weeks, and make it, you know, make the stakes higher for the match. But you know, anyways, then Lesnar did come out. Didn't really have anything to say. He came out with a new shirt, also looking pretty cool. Another shirt. I think I'm gonna get myself. I think when SmackDown rolls around in my area in September. But anyhow, yeah, I mean, they had a bit of a brawl, and, you know, Triple H was the guy that got the better end of it this time. You know, you know, it's the 1,000th episode of Raw. I can see why, you know, they're not going to have Triple H on the floor, you know. I mean, Triple H is, you know, he's been being groomed lately by Vince, you know, in the recent years. So, I mean, you know, he's not, on the 1,000th episode of Raw, they weren't going to have him, you know, get beat up by Brock Lesnar, and, you know. So once Triple H knocked Brock Lesnar out of the ring, you know, they took their shirts off, and, you know, so, I mean, so Lesnar, he dropped an F-bomb, you know, F off, which they look like they need a blank out or something there, which, you know, was cool. I mean, who cares if his you know what he said there. So, I mean, but that does, you know, Lesnar's characters, you know, it's pretty legitimate to me, and, you know, can't ask for much more than that. I wish maybe he would have had more time. Maybe he would have had a little more say, instead of Paul Heyman saying, well, he's okay. You know, you want to fight him, fine. You know, as if Lesnar doesn't really have, you know, the full say. But, you know, it is what it is. Still pretty good segment. Hoping to see Lesnar in the coming weeks leading up to this SummerSlam match. As you know, I'm thinking Lesnar might win this one. You know, just because they, you know, Triple H now got the better end, you know, tonight in this, you know, brawl that they had. But I'm thinking that, you know, eventually, you know, will lead up to Lesnar being, you know, coming out on top. And, you know, after that foolish, you know, way that they had Lesnar lose to Cena, you know, I'm hoping that Lesnar gets the win. You know, to keep momentum rolling for him, you know, kind of rebuild the momentum that was kind of lost with that loss to Cena, the way he lost just a couple moves back then, you know. But anyhow, you know, it was interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing what goes on next. Hopefully seeing Lesnar a lot in the future, leading up to SummerSlam. Of course, we had a Heath Slater segment, you know, which involved all these legends that he's been, you know, coming out, and, you know, that in the recent weeks that he's been kind of having matches with and fights with or whatever, getting beat up by. Lita came out, and the APA came out. APA, you know, that was interesting. APA, that was, you know, didn't expect them, but they came out. That was pretty cool. Of course, all the legends came out that he's been messing with, that Slater's been messing with, and of course Lita came out. and had a match against Heath Slater. I don't recall the opening bell ever ringing for that match. Just a little inconsistency there that sometimes WWE kind of doesn't follow up on. But it was just another one of those segments, to kind of just get the legends involved, have some fun, whatever you want to call it, and that's what they decided to do with that one. Kind of have some fun with legends that have been there in recent weeks, and of course bring out a few surprises like Lita and the APA. So it was an alright segment. I mean, it was kind of more of a lower tier kind of segment. But the next Legends segment, of course, well, if you want to call them Legends, I mean, future Legends, however you want to put it. Kane came out to the ring, and apparently he was supposed to have a match with someone, I believe, but Jinder Mahal and several others came out to the ring instead. And it looked like they were going to attack Kane, but then the bells of the Undertaker's music hit, and so a lot of people weren't sure if he was. I wasn't totally sure if the Undertaker was going to be there, but he, lo and behold, here he comes out, makes his, what many consider to be the greatest entrance, to the ring. And Kane and Undertaker wreak havoc on those guys, all those guys, and they both choke slam guys at the same time, they tombstone guys at the same time. They do the cutthroat, whatever you want to call it, taunts at the same time, and yeah, it was an interesting, good segment. Neat way to get Kane and Undertaker involved, and it worked well. Kane looks like Kane's fully back as a on the face side of the baby face side again. Clearly, ganging up with teaming up with Undertaker here. Undertaker coming out teaming up with him. That was good segment. Of course, lastly, then we had the main event match for the WWE Championship. Last week we knew that Cena was cashing in on this his Money in the Bank case in this match with CM Punk, and the match wasn't it wasn't very long. It wasn't like a pay-per-view match, I guess, per se. Given the fact that, obviously Big Show had not been involved in the show up until this point. And I called it last week. As soon as Cena hit Big Show with the case, I'm thinking, well, you know what, he's going to interfere with the match next week, and here we go. He interfered with the match. Leading up to it, I mean, it was a decent match. Punk was like maybe treated more as a face in this match. Then again, I mean, there's a lot of fans that have this, big hate for Cena. I mean, the whole "let's go Cena sucks" chance. I mean, those happen everywhere, but when they were trading blows, CM Punk was getting the cheers basically when he was laying a strike on John Cena. When Cena would strike him, Cena would kind of get the boos. So I mean, that was interesting. I kind of saw that coming a little bit, I guess. But yeah, I mean, the crowd, you know, in general, the crowd might have been a little more behind CM Punk in this match. I mean, he doesn't have near as many, you know, haters as Cena does. I mean, Cena has a lot of haters. CM Punk, some people hate him, and I don't know why, but you know, that's not really the issue here. You know, it was a decent match, I guess, while it lasted for them being one-on-one. Of course, once the referee got knocked out, I knew that, okay, this is Big Show's gonna come out. Lo and behold, he comes out and he spears down John Cena. Waits for him to get up. Cena gets up, throws a knockout punch, and you know, CM Punk doesn't know what to. I mean, CM Punk's sitting there watching this. He doesn't know what to do. The ref's out cold. Big Show kind of leaves the ring for a little bit. CM Punk seems reluctant to do this, but he, you know, helps the referee, brings him in the ring, goes for the cover. Too much time. Cena kicks out before the 3 count. You know, CM Punk isn't too. You know, it looks like he feels bad. So I mean, they brawl a little more. You know, a little bit back and forth action. And eventually Cena gets CM Punk in the STF, and then at this point Big Show, you know, kind of has enough, and he just comes in, you know, starts beating up John Cena again, and so basically the match turns into, you know, disqualification against, you know, CM Punk. Basically, you know, Big Show attacks Cena, so CM Punk basically loses by disqualification. But you know, so it's not necessarily. I mean, it's basically an unsuccessful cash-in. I mean, you know, Cena doesn't leave with the WWE Championship. It's as simple as that. So I mean, you know, there's a fine line there, because, you know, maybe Cena will get like a rematch, which I don't really care. I don't really want to see a rematch right now. But you know, there's a fine line between, you know, did Cena fail to be, you know, well, in a sense, you know, this was his cash-in match. He doesn't get a rematch in the near future, or you know, this, and it kind of is a failed cash-in, basically. I mean, he won by disqualification, but that doesn't give him the title. So it is kind of like a failed cash. It is kind of like the first failed cash-in. And if you do look at it that way, it gives. It helps build what will probably be a, you know, continued feud between Big Show and Cena, which I like. I like that idea. But I mean, yeah, well, we'll get to that in a second. Big Show, you know, continues to beat on Cena. CM Punk is. It looks like he's about to. You know, looks like Big Show's about to turn around and maybe beat CM Punk. Looks like CM Punk might be about to, you know, start beating up on Big Show. But then The Rock comes out, which is just a nice surprise. I didn't expect that. But he, you know, out comes The Rock. You know, shirtless, pretty, you know. Full head of steam. He comes out, and throws some strikes in the Big Show, gives the big guy a spine buster. You know, Rock's all fired up. He's getting ready for the People's Elbow. You know, he starts heading towards the rope, and CM Punk clotheslines That's right, he clotheslines The Rock. And at this point, you know, it was a shock enough having The Rock, it was a nice surprise having The Rock come out. Then, out of nowhere, CM Punk effectively turns heel. Just with this one clothesline shot, interrupting the people's elbow. Out of nowhere, seemingly out of nowhere, CM Punk turns heel with this clothesline shot, and then gives him to go to sleep. So I mean, it's in Cena's still laying there in the corner, not really seeing what's happening. Big Show then basically laying, next to the ring. It appeared kind of, right on the side of the ramp. And so, I mean, CM Punk effectively turned heel. He's walking away, leaves the ring to a lot of boos. A lot of maybe more casual fans that could, kind of go one way or the other, who tend to cheer, these fans were not happy. I mean, the ones that usually only root for the faces, you guys know who you are. And, CM Punk got a lot of boos for that. Of course, there's still going to be plenty of people behind CM Punk, my personal opinion of this, this heel turn, is it's a good move. Now, I mean, I'll say this: CM Punk is maybe getting a tad stale as a face in recent weeks. Maybe in recent months, you could say he's getting a tad stale. Now I'm not talking like John Cena stale, but I mean maybe a little stale. I mean, CM Punk, it seems like he's been treading, his reign has been treading water a little bit lately as WWE champion. It's not totally his fault. I mean, they could have had him main event things more, but that spot was taken up a lot, unfortunately, for him. But I mean, there weren't as many groundbreaking CM Punk promos like last summer, like his shoot promo, and when he came, leading up to last year's SummerSlam, and kind of, last August, July, September, October, there wasn't as much, as of late, there has not been as much, serious, kind of deep CM Punk kind of character moments. And with him heel again like this, maybe we'll see more of those, which I think would be cool. It's a good refresher of, character, I think. And he can always turn face again, no problem for me too. It's a nice experimental turn, though. I will, say that. Perhaps it was maybe one of the best things that could have come out of this. Maybe next year, like a fancy John Cena heel turn. But you couldn't. Doesn't look like that's happening anytime soon, folks. But CM Punk turning heel, interesting. Definitely interesting. And essentially, what this does is it's setting the stage for a CM Punk and Rock feud. Now, whether CM Punk holds the title until Royal Rumble, I don't know, or longer. But I would find that a little surprising. I don't see them making CM Punk's reign longer than John Cena's. Talking John Cena here. So I think we all know why. But I was thinking maybe he'll drop it to someone. I don't know. But anyhow, this does make things interesting. This sets the stage for a feud between those two guys. Maybe Punk will hold it until the Royal Rumble. Maybe, maybe they'll kind of have like a sort of like a feud like John Cena and The Rock had, with The Rock showing up, sparingly when he can, or maybe coming on via satellite, leading up to the Royal Rumble to kind of fill some gaps there. So, you think that, okay, The Rock's going to respond in some way to this, to what happened, as shocking as it was. So we'll see in the future. We'll see in the future, how, what kind of involvement The Rock will have. But I'm sure, the CM Punk heel turn, they'll have a feud kind of between them, kind of maybe playing out in the way that the John Cena and Rock feud played out, kind of how they had had CM Punk, except, well, obviously with CM Punk being more of a heel than Cena was during the feud, with some Rock, interspersed throughout, the time until they had the match, the feuds that they're going to have down the road. So, we'll see where that goes. This kind of leaves Big Show and Cena now to feud together, to extend the feud between them, which is good. I think Big Show deserves to get a victory or something over Cena. They can prolong the feud more if they, but let's get Big Show, a big win. I think it's only fair to, kind of keep momentum going that, he really picked up when he turned heel. As of late, his past couple pay-per-views there, he hasn't been successful. So, maybe Cena will get some kind of a rematch in the near future. Maybe not. Maybe this just gives more reason for Cena to, continue to feud with Big Show, and we'll see what, CM Punk see now as a heel. What he does, see what kind of next week we have a big CM Punk promo. Maybe kind of like that shoot promo. Maybe sort of reminiscent of it, at least in tone and the way he inflects words, maybe content, sort of. The difference, well, he kind of last year when he cut that shoot, he kind of turned face without anyone intending for him to be turned face, and him as heel should be good though. Refreshing his character. A good thing. It's never a bad thing if you can refresh a character in a good way. Turning heel's the way to do that sometimes, and it helps. I've been kind of craving a little more serious kind of CM Punk promo lately, and maybe for him to cut a little bit back on the taunts, and maybe now he might be doing that. So that's good, and I'm looking forward to seeing who he might feud with on the side, while they may build something up between him and The Rock to eventually have a match together. So, yeah, good stuff there. Overall, I was pleased with the 1000th episode of Raw, and we as fans, WWE better pleased us, because it was the 1000th episode. It was definitely a crucial episode, and it was pulled off pretty well, I think. And I think there's some good things to come. The Rock, he's going to be a little more involved maybe now, perhaps. Either way, there's you now know where he might go. CM Punk, big shocking heel turn. Big Show, Cena probably continue the feud. AJ, general manager. Lesnar, Triple H coming up soon, SummerSlam, see where that goes. So yeah, it's a successful night of Raw. It's a good 1000th episode of Raw. I was quite pleased with what WWE was able to come up with. Don't have much more to say other than looking forward to seeing, how these guys are used, how, in the near future, how everything proceeds from here. Looking forward to episode 1001. AJ is new general manager, maybe Lesnar showing up. There's some kind of response from The Rock to all this. The big CM Punk promo. Some more heat between Big Show, Cena, all of that. Look forward to that, and try to catch SmackDown later this week. It might, it's a busy weekend. They've been busy lately. Anyhow, thanks for watching this long. I know it was a long coverage of this episode of Raw, but it was 3 hours, which, again, can't forget, they're going to be 3-hour Raws now from here on out, just semi-permanently. But anyhow, thanks for watching TW Wrestling Talk, this edition. That was an episode of Raw edition, and I encourage you to subscribe, post comments, questions can maybe cover, and just continue to stay tuned with the discussion that I have here and the discussions I have here on TW Wrestling Talk. Thanks again for watching, and again, stay tuned. I'm out.